Hi, and welcome to this deep dive on jealousy in The Sims 2. We're going to talk about all that happens when a sim cheats on their partner and is found out, and all the juicy technicalities behind that. We're going to approach this from the most basic facts to the hidden details, at least the details that I was able to uncover. So hopefully everyone learned something and everything is clear. Since I don't have the skills required to be able to read the game's code directly, a lot of the time I had to infer what the code says from observation, so through testing. Like a lot of testing, which comes with a possible margin of error. However, I did get a lot of indirect help from modders Similar90 and Mitch the Tree, because a lot of the technical information that I'm going to be sharing comes from Similar90's Romantic Standards mod description and Mitch the Tree's Romantic Standards documentation. So they don't know it, but they've been of invaluable help for the making of this video. I would pretty much not have been able to make it without them, so thank you very much to Similar90 and Mitch. So those were my tools, a ton of testing and Romantic Standards documentation, Romantic Standards being the biggest mod overhauling romance in The Sims 2. Although I tried to be as exhaustive as possible, there are areas that are still murky for me, so right off the gate, if you know things that I don't, I'm very open to reading your insights and criticism. Jealousy in The Sims 2 is a mechanic that was present from the base game, and then the nightlife expansion added another layer to it with the introduction of Fury. Here the term jealousy refers specifically to romantic jealousy, the reaction that a sim has when they witness their romantic partner having any romantic interaction with someone else. Although do keep in mind that Maxis stretched the definition of romantic partner quite a bit. In the vanilla game, two sims don't actually need to be in a committed relationship for jealousy to occur. As long as one sim has a crush on or is in love with another sim, they'll get jealous when they see that sim engage romantically with another. It doesn't matter whether or not their feelings are requited. So for example, if Darren, who has a crush on Cassandra, sees her interact romantically with her fiancé Dawn, he will become jealous and make a scene, even though Cassandra doesn't have feelings for Darren and is committed to Dawn. Additionally, a sim will get jealous whether the sim they have a crush on is the one initiating or receiving the romantic interaction, or if they're on the receiving end, whether they accept it or not. So, for example, if some random sim tries to flirt with Cassandra and she rejects the interaction, Dawn will still get jealous, make a scene, and end up furious with her, even though she was actually being faithful. So when I mention the cheaters throughout this video, I'm referring to what the game perceives as cheating, which doesn't always match what we would consider as cheating in the real world. For example, in this situation, Cassandra qualifies as a cheater according to the game's logic. Another limitation of the jealousy system is that it applies to all sims roughly in the same way. We'll add nuance to that later. In an unmodded game, you can't fine-tune how an individual sim will react to someone they like being romantic with someone else. This can quickly lead to situations where romance sims especially appear extremely hypocritical, and it makes true polyamorous relationships impossible. What is nice, however, is that it's not only the sim that is being cheated on that reacts to the cheating. Relatives of the sim who is being cheated on will also react in their own way, and their relationships to the cheaters will also take a hit. With those basic facts in mind, let's create some scenarios and watch what happens in detail. In this section, we're gonna look at various situations where sims cheat on their partners and what happens as an immediate result. Our test subjects are going to be Daniel, Mary Sue, Dina, and Mortimer. For the sake of the experiment, Daniel and Mary Sue got their crush back, and Mortimer and Dina got married, so that both couples are in the exact same kind of relationship. But I'm gonna tell you right now, it doesn't matter, these scenarios play the same regardless. We'll come back to that. In our first scenario, Daniel will flirt with Dina in Mary Sue and Mortimer's presence. We'll use the charm interaction for now. First, let's have Dina accept Daniel's advances. Here we want to pause before anything else happens, just so we're clear that what we're seeing is the result of the cheating alone. In terms of the reaction animations, Mary Sue and Mortimer both had the same gesture that is part of this tantrum cycle. Sims who are on the grouchy side, like Mary Sue and Mortimer, will tap into animations from that cycle, while a sim who is more on the nice side will either hide their face with both hands or just look horrified with their mouth wide open. Right after that, they will run to their respective partners and slap them across the face, no matter their personalities, though that's for later. In terms of memories, Daniel got 2 memories, had an affair with Dina, which is always going to be a positive memory, even if you were a family sim, and got caught cheating by Mary Sue, which of course is always negative. Mary Sue remembers catching Daniel cheating. Dina got 2 memories, had an affair with Daniel, and got caught cheating by Mortimer. If you have Daniel use Wolf Whistle instead of Charm, she will only remember getting caught cheating but not having an affair. As far as I've seen, Wolf Whistle is the only interaction that does that, even when it's accepted. And Mortimer remembers catching Dina cheating. In terms of their relationships to one another, as expected, Daniel's relationships to the other 3 hasn't changed, except for the relationship increase with Dina from the flirt being accepted, and same thing on Dina's side. Mary Sue and Mortimer are furious with both Daniel and Dina, and they got big relationship decreases towards them, especially towards their respective partners. Then what happens directly after the cheating can vary, but it's a combination of slapping, crying, and looking very distressed and or very angry. Those actions are pushed on the Sims even if you have autonomy turned off, as is the case here. Most of the time, Mary Sue will run to slap Daniel, causing his relationship to her to drop and causing him to become furious with her, while in the meantime, Mortimer will run to slap Dina, who will also get a drop in her relationship to him and become furious. Neither Daniel nor Dina are grouchy, so they won't retaliate and the violence will stop there. But if you replay this, taking their nice points away, they do slap back and then walk away and cry. So things look more dramatic and relationships will suffer more if the cheaters are grouchy. That's a nice detail. In the cases where Daniel uses Wolf Whistle specifically, Mary Sue and Mortimer will both run to slap Daniel and Dina will be spared. Again, here Daniel doesn't slap them back because he's not grouchy, but if he were, he would. The fact that this only happens with Wolf Whistle, I think is connected to Wolf Whistle also not giving Dina the had an affair with Daniel memory. That's the one scenario where the game is more forgiving of Dina, even if she accepted the flirt. So, in the case of a Wolf Whistle, the relationship between Mortimer and Dina won't be as brutally impacted as it would be with a more extreme interaction. I'm not sure if it's intended behavior, and we'll come back to that, but it's nice anyway. Now, what happens if Dina rejects the flirt? Let's rewind and see. So Daniel tries to charm Dina, but she rejects him. Let's pause again before follow-up interactions can go through. Mary Sue and Mortimer's animations are just as intense as they were before, and looking at everyone's memories, the only thing that changed from the previous scenario is that Dina didn't get the had an affair with Daniel memory. But she still has the memory of being caught cheating, and Mortimer still got a memory of catching her cheating, even though she rejected the flirt. Looking at Mary Sue and Mortimer's relationship panels, a ton of relationship points were lost again. We're gonna get into the details of relationship decrease values later, but for now just notice that Dina is definitely not getting spared. By realistic standards, she did not cheat, but it looks like the game counts it as cheating anyway. What is nice though is that when Dina rejects the interaction, only Daniel gets slapped, so Dina gets some mercy there at least. I'm sorry, Daniel. So that's what happens if the cheater's partners are there to witness the cheating. Now, what happens when other Sims witness cheating? Do they notice at all? Let's test it out and see. First, we'll have acquaintances of the couples witness the cheating, and then we'll do it again with family members. The Sims here all know Daniel, Mary Sue, Dina, and Mortimer to some extent. None of them have a familial tie to them, and all of these relationships are platonic, but otherwise we've got a wide range of things. Most notably, Abhijit is BFFs with Daniel and Dina and hates Mary Sue and Mortimer, and Andrea is the opposite. She's starting off with a strong bias against the cheaters and in favor of their partners. Let's see if any of that matters. Nope, it does not. Nobody here had any reaction, and their relationship scores have not changed at all. Now let's try with family members. Beside Daniel and Dina themselves, each of the Sims here has a blood tie to at least one of the members of the two couples. Angela and Lilith are Daniel and Mary Sue's daughters. Danny is the son that Daniel had with a townie who doesn't have feelings for him, so he's related to Daniel but not to Mary Sue. And Gary Stu is the son that Mary Sue had with a townie who doesn't have feelings for her. Gary Stu doesn't even know Daniel. Jennifer is Daniel's sister, and she knows Mary Sue but isn't related to her by blood. Lucy is Jennifer's daughter, and therefore Daniel and Mary Sue's niece, but she's only related by blood to Daniel. Coral and Herb are Mary Sue's parents. On the other side, Morticia is Dina and Mortimer's daughter, Nina is Dina's sister, and Cassandra and Alexander are Mortimer's children from Bella, who's long gone, so they're not related to Dina. Let's see how all of these Sims take Daniel cheating on Mary Sue with Dina. First, let's have Dina accept Daniel's advances. Only these 5 Sims reacted. What they have in common is that they are relatives of Mary Sue. Even Gary Stu, who had never met Daniel, somehow knew that he was cheating on his mom. And since Daniel's son, didn't budge, we can deduce that Angela and Lilith didn't react on account of witnessing their father cheating. They reacted because their mother was being cheated on. The absence of reaction on Jennifer and Lucy's part confirms that as well. Sims do not care if one of their relatives cheats. They only care when their relative gets cheated on. On Dina and Mortimer's side, nobody reacted. If he were here, Mortimer would have made a scene, but his relatives don't seem to care. Looking at everyone's relationship panels, none of the Sims who didn't react see any change, but Mary Sue's relatives all experienced a drop in their relationships to Daniel and to Dina. Minus 40 STR towards Daniel and minus 20 STR towards Dina, to be precise. The Sims who didn't know Dina now have her on their relationship panels, along with a memory of meeting her. And Gary Stu, who knew neither Daniel nor Dina, also appears to have quote-unquote met both of them from witnessing their interaction. It's worth having a closer look at the animations that Mary Sue's relatives went through, because there's logic behind them. Gary Stu cried, Herb looked annoyed, and Coral, Lilith, and Angela looked distressed. I found that the animations are based on the age of the Sim who performs them, as well as their outgoing score. Children always do the crying animation, no matter their personality. Teens and older on the shy side will do the distressed animation, and teens and older on the outgoing side will do the short annoyed animation. Also, you might have noticed that Jennifer, Nina, and Cassandra were frowning for a second, but it's not because of the cheating, it's because Gary Stu was crying. You can see that they're looking at him. If you make machinimas, you've probably noticed that for some reason, Sims who witness another Sim do this crying animation act annoyed, even with autonomy off. That's just something the game pushes them to do. I don't know why Maxis thought that would be an appropriate reaction to someone crying, but yeah, that's nothing to do with the cheating. I also tried this with higher level romantic interactions, and there was no difference in the witnesses' reactions, except with longer interactions like make out and woohoo. And let me show you with woohoo, because that's where it's most obvious. Look at Mary Sue's relatives' reactions. All 5 of them had the same as before, except Angela, Lilith, Coral, and Herb had their reactions several times. And if you look at their panels, their relationships with Daniel and Dina took a hit every time they reacted. Gary Stu reacted once, so he got minus 40 STR towards Daniel and minus 20 towards Dina as before, but the ladies reacted twice, so they got minus 80 STR towards Daniel and minus 40 towards Dina, and Herb reacted 4 times, so he got presumably minus 160 towards Daniel and minus 80 towards Dina. One snippet of Mitch the Tree's romantic standards documentation helped me put a finger on what this is. Jealousy re-react. With this, with Midge's mod, instead of the default 10 to 13 minutes it takes before Sims can re-react to a jealousy controller, it'll take about an hour. So in the vanilla game, Sims can re-react to a Sim cheating, and their minimal cooldown between reactions is 10 to 13 Sim minutes. I think that's what we're seeing here. Apparently, the number of times they react just depends on how many of their animations they can fit within the time that the cheating interaction is happening, which is why we don't see re-reactions on a shorter interaction like a charm. As I understand it, the point of re-reaction is to keep witnesses engaged with the cheating for as long as it's going on, and to allow for more variation in relationship outcomes depending on how long the interaction lasts. It makes sense in the context of the cheaters woohooing, as we saw. You want the witnesses to stay engaged and their relationships to the cheaters to go down quite a bit. And another example where this works quite well is if the cheaters are cuddling on a couch in plain sight, which is an interaction that can last pretty much indefinitely if you freeze the Sims' motives. I think it makes sense that the witnesses would keep reacting as long as it lasts, and that their relationships to them would keep decreasing as the situation becomes more and more inappropriate as it drags on. But then there's a consistency issue when you compare that to how the cheated on Sims react to cheating. If we go back to our first configuration and swap the charm for a woohoo, you'll see that Mary Sue and Mortimer only react once, because when a cheater gets caught, they go into panic mode or whatever that's called, and the animations therein are sped up. So Mary Sue and Mortimer don't have time to really react on longer interactions, but it makes sense because they don't want to just stand there and keep reacting. It makes sense that they would want to stop the offending interaction as soon as they can. But then the problem is that since they only react once, their relationships to the cheaters only get hit once. And so in the end, here you can see that they got the same relationship decreases for a woohoo as they did for a charm. Which you can argue that cheating is cheating, but I don't know, that doesn't sit quite right with me. There is a system in place to allow for variation in how much the relationship of the cheated on sim will be impacted depending on the cheater's interaction, but as you saw just there, it could be argued that it doesn't produce the most convincing results. That system is called Severity. We're gonna talk about it in detail in a minute. But let's go back to our witnesses for now. For the sake of scientific rigor, we can do this again with Dina rejecting Daniel's advances. And yeah, it doesn't change anything from before. Same reactions, and more egregiously, same relationship decreases towards Dina. But hey, I guess at least Dina doesn't get the had an affair memory. So to sum up, witnesses react to cheating only if they are relatives of the partner of the initiating cheater. So in this case, relatives of Mary Sue. Even Mary Sue's BFF won't lift a finger if they're not a family member of hers. And by family member, I mean they need to appear with the family icon in Mary Sue's relationship panel, so distant or indirect relatives won't react, like Jennifer and Lucy did not react. Also, even though Mortimer gets mad at Dina when he's here to witness the cheating, relatives of Mortimer don't react. And lastly, the relatives of Mary Sue had their relationship to Dina decrease no matter if she accepted or rejected the flirt, which, although it's a bit weird, is consistent with Mortimer's relationship to Dina decreasing either way as well. According to Simula90, the game has a feature that should push the relatives of the cheated on sim to scold the cheater. I quote, "There is a scolding feature to jealousy where sims can scold cheaters for cheating if they have a familial relationship with the cheated on sim. Unfortunately, it does not work very well, because if the to-be-scolded sim rejects the social, then sims do not bother getting angry at the sim who initiated the interaction." I'm not sure what that means because I wasn't able to reproduce it. In my game, the witnesses never scold the cheating sims, even with autonomy on, I mean. I tried a bunch of times in different situations with different households, but nothing worked. Relatives of the cheated on sim may autonomously go to the cheaters to poke or even slap them, because those relationships are bad after they took a hit from the cheating, but they never scold, so I don't know. Let me know if you have any ideas as to what I might be missing, or if you've seen scolding after an instance of cheating in your own game. Alright, as promised, let's talk about Severity now. Although all sims react the same way to the same jealousy-inducing situation, different romantic interactions trigger jealousy with varying intensities depending on their severity. The severity value of a romantic interaction determines how much relationships will be impacted when a sim finds their partner engaging in that interaction with another. An interaction that has a high severity value will cause a bigger drop in the relationship of the cheated on sim to the cheaters than a lower severity interaction. The severity value of an interaction depends on its social category. According to Simula90, and as a fair warning before we get into the details, the way Max has divided the romantic socials into these categories is very wild, and sometimes they do not make much sense. Still, according to Simula90, object-based romantic interactions have their own severity values, but standing romantic interactions are divided into 3 categories. They don't detail which interactions belong to which category, so I did some testing to determine which goes where. Basically, I had Daniel initiate romantic interactions on Dina, and I looked at the relationship decreases they caused on the panels of Mary Sue and Mortimer under various variables. And here they are, grouped up according to the relationship decreases they caused. I believe that the three social categories that similarity referred to are these three. Woohoo in bed is an object-based interaction, so it doesn't fit in any of them. I just included it in my tests because I wanted to check where it would rank relative to the rest. And then wolf whistle yielded its own results, so I ended up putting it in its own category. So excluding wolf whistle, the gist of this is that the further down the list you go, the more severe the damage on the relationships of the cheated on Sims to the cheaters. This is the exact breakdown in the case of the Pleasant and Garth couples. So again, these numbers show the amount of relationship points that get lost in the relationships of Mary Sue and Mortimer towards Daniel and Dina from witnessing the interactions listed. The green table is for when Dina accepts Daniel's advances, and the red one is for when she rejects them. I'll give an example. Let's say Mary Sue starts with a relationship of 100 over 100 towards both Daniel and Dina. Then she witnesses Daniel initiating a romantic kiss on Dina, and Dina accepts. Mary Sue's relationship to them therefore suffers these decreases, so she now has a relationship of minus 100 over minus 65 towards Daniel and minus 77 over 10 towards Dina. But then I'm still a little confused about one thing. What do the severity values correspond to exactly? How do we get from these severity values to these numbers? Similar90 doesn't explain it, and I have not been able to reverse engineer the formula, so I don't know. However, I did come to find out more through further testing. The first step was that I made two other couples to do these tests on and saw that their results didn't match the ones that the Pleasants and the Ghosts got. Here, Sim A is the initiating cheater, in the same position as Daniel was. Sim B is Sim A's partner, equivalent to Mary Sue. Sim C is the Sim that Sim A is cheating with, equivalent to Dina. And Sim D is Sim C's partner, equivalent to Mortimer. And these results don't match. But I was eventually able to find the variable that leads to those differences. It's the number of nice points that the jealous Sims have. That took me a while to figure out because although personality variations were among the first things I experimented with, just changing personality scores with testing cheats on did not change anything. The game wasn't registering the changes in its jealousy calculations. I had to change their nice scores with testing cheats on, then save and exit out to the neighborhood, then get back into the household, and only then would nice scores update properly and I started seeing the right results. It's not necessary to look at every possible outcome to see the patterns, so I'm just going to show you the tables for when the cheated on Sims have 0, 5, and 10 nice points. This way you can see how much relationships tank in the worst case, in the base case, and at the midway point. You'll see that there isn't as much variation based on interaction severity within one set of tables as there is variation from one set of tables to the other. That means that which romantic interaction the cheaters use doesn't have as much of an impact as the nice scores of the cheated on Sims do. There is especially little variation within the 0 nice point tables because relationships can't drop below minus 100 over minus 100 and we're hitting the bottom very quickly. And even the 5 nice point tables hit the bottom consistently in the first and fourth columns. That just goes to show how severe the relationship decreases are overall, even for quote-unquote low severity interactions. For that reason, the 10 nice point tables are the most interesting to look at because that's where the variations across interactions are the most visible. You'll notice that, again, Wolf Whistle is doing its own thing. It's the one category that systematically gives results that break the pattern followed by the categories below it. In Romantic Standards description, Similar90 confirms that Wolf Whistle is out of place. Today I found out that Max has set the social category of Wolf Whistle to category 3, Severity 70. But actually, the results that Wolf Whistle gives are not quite the same as those obtained from the category 3 I was able to outline. Similar90 might have been using a shorthand here. However, this row always corresponds to this row, whereas the ones below don't correspond in the same way, except when numbers just can't get any lower. So Wolf Whistle gives the same result when it's accepted as when it's rejected. I'm not sure why, maybe it's an oversight, but it is notable. As I mentioned earlier, the exact nature of the romantic relationship between the couples doesn't change anything to these values. I did the bulk of the testing with married couples, but then I found out that it doesn't matter anyway because everything stays the same as long as the cheated on Sims have at least either a crush on or are in love with the cheaters. Then they can be steady, engaged, married, or not in a committed relationship at all, or the cheaters can even have no feelings whatsoever towards the jealous Sims and it's all the same. I think it would have been nice to see variations there, or at least it would have been nice if the decreases were less steep when the couples are not formally committed to each other. I think the most questionable part of this, though, is this section in each table set. These show the relationship decrease of the Mortimer of the group towards his Dina when Dina rejects the interaction. Sorry if I sound like a broken record, but Mortimer is getting a relationship decrease towards Dina from witnessing her being faithful to him. Initially, I thought that was just dumb. However, to Maxis's credit, there is a layer of subtlety to this, as well as a game feature that can remedy it. Let me explain. These numbers I've been showing are the relationship decreases that you're gonna see if you have the nightlife expansion, which I'm assuming that's most of you. But as I said in the beginning, there's a component of jealousy that was introduced with nightlife, and therefore was not present in the base game, and that's Fury. And as it turns out, Fury isn't just a red overlay that causes Sims to kick your trash can and steal your newspapers, it also affects relationship scores. That means that if you don't have nightlife, and therefore you don't have the Fury mechanic, the relationship decreases from cheating that you're gonna see are going to look very different. You could test that out by playing without nightlife through any game starter, but the easier way is simply to have your test subjects study anger management, one of the life skills that came with apartment life. When a Sim has acquired the anger management skill, they have a large chance to not become furious in situations that would normally induce fury. So that's what I did with Mary Sue and Mortimer, and then we went again for another round of testing. Here are the relationship decreases without fury. As you can see, the results without Sims getting furious are much more straightforward than when they do get furious, and they're like this in every case regardless of the nice scores of the cheated on Sims. So the code was fairly simplistic before Nightlife came out, though that's not necessarily a bad thing. Wolf Whistle was already an outlier, but other than that we're looking at very minimal variations. There's no variation across interactions, except for Wolf Whistle, which means that there's no social categories, so that means that it's the Fury mechanic that introduced social categories. And here you see that when Dina rejects the interaction, Mary Sue and Mortimer only get mad at Daniel and never get any decreases towards Dina, which is great. So without Fury, Dina is pretty much completely spared when she rejects the interaction, except for memories. So Fury is the sole culprit for Mary Sue and Mortimer getting relationship decreases towards Dina for no reason. That's interesting. Like, if that's the case, then maybe those decreases make some sort of sense. I mean, as I see it, Fury is meant to represent irrational anger. If Mary Sue and Mortimer are blinded by Fury, they could be irrationally blaming Dina for being in that position, even though she did nothing wrong. That might be a bit too real, actually. Honestly, if my Sims are gonna get angry like that at the innocent party by default, that really makes me want to have them study anger management, which is a good incentive to use that feature. I don't know, I think it sort of works out in the end. The problem that remains, though, is that the relationship decreases that Mary Sue's relatives had towards Dina when she rejects the interaction have nothing to do with Fury, so those you can't prevent by learning anger management. If you want to see the tables better and have the full breakdown showing what part of relationship decreases is base game and what is due to Fury, there's a link to the full Google Sheet in the description. Now, there's a couple more things that I noticed that happen in some cases. Sometimes one of the jealous Sims will get their relationship decreases in 2 installments. Like, they'll get an initial one that corresponds to I don't know what, and then shortly after they'll get another one. And the final result will be consistent with the normal decreases of that situation, consistent with the values I have in the tables. So ultimately it doesn't matter, and it's something that you can only see if you pause and update their panels throughout the cheating, but it is there, and I'm curious to know what it's reflective of. Also, in the same vein, sometimes one of the jealous Sims will get what seems like double the relationship decreases they should normally get. Again, I don't know why, it just seems to happen at random. I'll test out one interaction with the exact same variables several times, and one of those times, out of nowhere, Mary Sue or Mortimer will be particularly mad at the cheaters for no discernible reason. Like this one time when Mortimer looked like he just had enough of the repeated testing and he was so distraught. And to be clear, I quit without saving after every single interaction that I test, so it can't be something like him remembering being cheated on in the past and having an intense trauma reaction this time around. He was a blank slate on that front, so I don't know. Maybe this is akin to re-reaction, maybe it's a glitch in the system, maybe it's purposeful to introduce an element of surprise. If you have any idea, just let me know. Finally, there are some more cases that fall outside of the general rule, but at least those I can explain. A minor one is Goose. Goose is an interaction that has a special line of code in it that causes witnesses to react to it, even if there's no cheating involved. Update 7 of Simula's Romantic Standards description reads, Max has put an interesting trigger romance strong line to the Goose interaction, which makes all Sims teen and older react to it. The problem is that this interferes with jealousy reactions, even in an unmodded game. Simula got rid of that line in Romantic Standards, so if you use the mod you won't have that, but otherwise the embarrassed animation that Goose pushes on witnesses will interfere with the usual jealousy animations where there is cheating involved. The relationship decreases aren't impacted though, nor is Fury, so it's just an animation thing as far as I can tell. The other thing is more important. Not all of the romantic interactions in the game are listed in the tables I made. Part of that is because testing all of them wasn't worth the time it would have taken, but also some of the romantic interactions that are not on there do not have jealousy code, and therefore do not trigger jealousy at all. So no reaction, no relationship drop, nothing. That's most likely due to oversights or, the devs lacked time. Those interactions are kiss, peck, propose engagement, the nightlife romantic dining interactions blow kiss, feed a bite, and hold hands, the nightlife booth interactions love talk and hot smooch, tent woohoo, and the apartment life bed cuddling when a sim wakes up. The apartment life bed cuddling is not to be confused with the base game spooning that happens when the sims are sleeping. Only the apartment life cuddling doesn't trigger jealousy, but the base game spooning does. Romantic Standards gives proper jealousy code to those interactions, so if you use it, that won't be an issue in your game. Now that we have a fairly good understanding of what triggers jealousy at what intensity, let's talk about the distance at which jealousy can be triggered. First, we need to understand jealousy emitters. From what I got from reading Similar, jealousy emitters are invisible objects that the game creates when two sims engage in cheating, or possibly when they engage in any romantic interaction. Either way, that invisible object is what allows sims who have feelings for either of the two sims to become jealous when they're in range. That range, that radius around the jealousy emitter, is called attenuation. Attenuation is basically how close to the cheaters a sim needs to be to notice the cheating. And that distance isn't always the same depending on which romantic interaction the cheaters are engaging in. All standing romantic interactions have an attenuation of 10 tiles. That means that when a sim is cheating on their partner by way of one of the standing interactions, like a standard flirt or kiss, they will only get caught if their partner is 10 tiles away from them or less. That's if the sims are in the same room or outside. If they are in different rooms, cheaters engaging in a standing interaction won't get caught no matter how close they are, even if the sim who's being cheated on should technically be able to see the cheaters through a window or over a half wall or a fence. It's pretty funny the situations that leads to. Then object-based interactions are different, or at least Woohoo and Try for Baby in bed or a hot tub are. According to Simula90, Maxis set the attenuation value of the bed/hot tub Woohoo/Try for Baby to an incredible 25/20. And if the attenuation is greater than 13, it also affects sims who are outside the room, but still within distance of the emitter. That's why when you have your sim woohoo with someone on a lot where their partner is present, there's a very high chance that they'll get caught. It's because of that high attenuation value. Contrary to popular belief though, it is possible for a woohoo to go through unnoticed if the partner is outside of the radius. It might be obvious, but when a jealousy emitter is created, it will be active for a period of time, from the moment the romantic interaction starts until it ends. That's because we want Sims who are not in the attenuation radius when the interaction begins to still be able to get jealous or otherwise react to the cheating if they enter the radius later while the interaction is still going. And I would imagine that's also what allows witnesses to react. But according to Simula90, Max has made it so a jealousy emitter can only be active for about 1 sim hour at most, which causes an issue when the cheating interaction lasts longer than that, like when Sims are spooning in bed or cuddling in the hot tub. In the vanilla game, Sims can't get jealous or otherwise react to cheating anymore when the cheating interaction has been going on for more than 1 sim hour. Romantic Standards fixes that, but if you don't have it, it's an issue you might notice. Simula90 also found an issue with the jealousy emitter in the case of bed or hot tub woohoo or try for baby. When the jealousy emitter is created, it immediately checks all the potentially jealous Sims and their relatives within the attenuation radius to push them to react to the cheating. But after that first check, as the cheating interaction is still happening, the emitter allows Sims who are in other rooms to react only if they are relatives of the cheated on Sim, but not if they are the cheated on Sims themselves. So if a Sim is cheating on their partner by way of woohoo in a bed or hot tub, and their partner enters the attenuation radius only after the woohoo has started, the partner won't be able to get jealous. Romantic Standards has a fix for that, and Simula90 added a chance that the jealous Sim or their relatives won't react to the cheating when they're in a different room, depending on how far away they are and how many logic points they have. Then, in an unmodded game, there's a problem with jealousy emitter placement that can result in jealousy not triggering at all. That's when the cheating occurs on a beach area. I don't mean on a beach lot, but very specifically on the area of beach lots that is closest to the sea, where Sims get the options to sunbathe, comb for seashells, and build sandcastle when you click the ground. To quote Simula90, if Sim A performs a romantic social on Sim B anywhere within that area, Sim C, who would normally get jealous, will not even lift a finger. This is because the emitter object, which initiates jealousy, is not allowed to be placed on that area. In fact, no emitter object is allowed to be placed there. Emitter objects are very important to gameplay because without them, Sims would not react to anything. Maxis forgot to put a placement flag on the emitter semi-global function in it. Again, Romantic Standards fixes that issue, but if you don't use it, your Sims get a pass for cheating when they're on a beach area. Finally, this is not a bug, but a special case. Jealousy works in a special way when two Sims are on a date. A jealousy emitter is created at the start of the date and it stays active for the whole duration of it. So just being on a date can trigger jealousy from another Sim, even if the two Sims are not engaging in any romantic interaction right now. For instance, if you have Nina ask Dawn on a home date while Dina is home, Dina will realize what's going on as soon as she gets in range of them, even if they're not doing anything romantic at that moment. Now let's touch on what can happen after a Sim was caught cheating. The first thing you'll notice is that after a cheater was caught, the Sims involved may periodically remember the cheating for a couple days or so after the incident, and you'll see them express their anger or sorrow with idle animations and thought bubbles. The autonomous reminiscing of past events is such a good feature of The Sims 2. The relationship of the cheated on Sim to the cheater is always going to be low enough that they'll get the option to break up, provided they were an actual couple in the first place. When a couple breaks up, the kids that they possibly have will react to it. In fact, kids will react to any instance of their parents fighting each other or other people, which is a nice detail, as sad as it is. An interaction that I think is especially sweet is when a child is crying, an older Sim nearby may autonomously go to them and console them. The relationship between the child and the Sim who consoles them gets a boost from that. It's nice. When a couple breaks up, the Sim who initiated the breakup gets to keep the house and the kids, and the other Sim has to move out. You'll find them in the neighborhood's family bin. From the moment cheating is found out, the cheated on Sims will be furious with the cheaters for several days, depending on the severity of the interaction and how grouchy they are. And the cheaters will be furious with their cheated on partners for a shorter amount of time, not because of the cheating itself, but because of the slapping. If any of them has acquired the anger management skill but still became furious, they at least won't be furious for as long. As I hinted at earlier, Fury comes with a bunch of side effects, most notably when the two Sims don't live on the same lot. If Marisu kicks Daniel out, he will regularly pay her impromptu visits to kick her trash can or steal a newspaper, until his fury towards her times out. The couple doesn't have to break up though, and if you want to mend the relationship, there are interactions that can help. You can have the cheating sim apologize to their partner, and that will improve their relationship score. It's not going to boost it up to a level comparable to what it was before, but it does help to a realistic extent. And you can even apologize several times in a row, which is a bit less realistic. I've never seen that interaction fail, by the way. The other sim always accepts the apology in my game, even when their relationship to the apologizer is rock bottom, even when they're furious and enemies with them and they have no nice points. I have to assume that rejection is just not a possible outcome with that interaction in the vanilla game, but please let me know if you've seen a sim reject an apology before. For all it's worth, there is also no want or fear related to another sim accepting or rejecting an apology, only one about just apologizing. If the cheater is a romance sim, they can also get the aspiration benefit that gives them the option to smooth talk the sim whose heart they broke, which will help their relationship a lot. This is way more effective than apologize. Just keep in mind that smooth talk is a romantic interaction and therefore can trigger jealousy, but then I guess you can always smooth talk your way out of that mess as well. And there's a third option. A sim who has studied couple counseling can try to repair a relationship. I had never used that feature before testing it out for this, and it's kinda cool. It has nice animations. If it goes through smoothly, it will improve relationship scores similarly to the extent that apologizing does, and it will also leave a memory to the couple. But there's a chance that it fails and does nothing. The cheated on sim might not be ready to forgive. Lastly, I've got 3 bits of info related to jealousy that didn't fit the previous sections but are still good to know or interesting. Date rewards. Jealousy can be triggered by looking at the flowers that a sim receives after a successful date. It should have worked with the love letter as well, but a typo in the code makes it throw an error instead. According to Similar90, if a potentially jealous person performs the view interaction on the pink love letter in an unmodded game, the game gives an invalid constant error because whoever created the pink love letter set the instance number of the tuning beacon to 1001 instead of 1000. Romantic Standards fixes that. Ghost jealousy. Ghosts can get jealous if the sim they were partnered with while they were alive finds a new partner. Similar90 calls this an oversight, but it looks to me like it's not a bug but a feature. Here I had Dina and Mortimer get married and woohoo while Michael's ghost was out, and his animations and thought bubbles looked completely fine to me. So Romantic Standards gets rid of ghost jealousy, but I'm not sure that's necessarily a fix. Gossip. It seems that at some point in the game's development, Sims who witnessed cheating could spread that memory through gossip. News of the affair could travel throughout the neighborhood and even reach the Sims who were cheated on, but apparently it doesn't work anymore, at least not with the Ultimate Collection. Marticore made a video titled "Can you actually discover cheating through gossip?", where she reached the conclusion that you can't. I tried various scenarios in my own game as well, not that I don't trust Marticore, I just wanted to be extra professional, and I was never able to make it happen either. Marticore's video will be linked in the description if you want to see more about that. And that's all I wanted to say about jealousy. The script went through so many reworks because I was constantly uncovering new information that invalidated things I thought I knew or that at least brought some nuance to things. I really hope that this final version isn't too shabby, even though there's questions I still wasn't able to answer. I tried to reach out to Midge on Tumblr about what exactly the severity values correspond to, but it's been well over a week at time of recording and I haven't received a response, unfortunately. If Midge replies or I otherwise learn more after this video comes out, I'll put the info in a pinned comment below. Next video will be a follow-up to this one. It will be about mods that change how jealousy works. We're gonna talk about mods that let you decide the level of commitment Sims need to be at before they can get jealous, mods that get rid of jealousy entirely, either for all Sims or for select polyamorous individuals, mods that get rid of a Sim's jealousy temporarily, and I'm even gonna touch on mods that allow polygamy and marriages of convenience, which you might be interested in, especially if you play a historical neighborhood. I hope that sounds interesting to you, and if so, I'll talk to you then. In the meantime, take care and have a good rest of your day. Bye!
Passo foul. Oh, lang COVID tuba.